All right, so it's officially Labor Day weekend here in the United States, and I know that for a lot of us, we have a lot of seasonal associations with this time of year. And for all of us that went to school in our early years, we see it as the end of summer and maybe back to school. And with the end of summer comes the end of fun and the end of freedom and the end of relaxed schedules and sleeping in and maybe planned vacations or the occasional spontaneous road trip. And it becomes a start to going to bed early and maybe getting the kids to bed early, and then back into nighttime preparations and morning routines and definitely more morning traffic than usual. And on top of that, there's a very real possibility that you're going to get stuck behind a school bus when you're probably already late for work. And I say all this to point out the fact that every single one of us have these seasonal associations, but somehow we never really feel ready for them, right? This weekend for most of us has historically been associated with parties, with activities, with longer days and even longer nights. And it's almost like we're throwing ourselves our last bachelor or bachelorette party before we're getting married to our real life responsibilities. Now, every year, like clockwork, the holidays come and the holidays go. And over the years, we've built up a habit of participating in a very predictable and habitual way. Some of these associations are conscious and some of them are subconscious. And some of these subconscious happenings may lead to seasonal stress or seasonal anxieties, and definitely at times seasonal depressions. You might associate this weekend with one last time to get together with the family for a barbecue, or one last weekend to take that road trip. It might be one last time to hang out with your friends as wildly and as recklessly as you possibly can, especially if it ends up being a 3-day or a 4-day weekend. And for some people, it's definitely going to be a 4-day weekend. Well, that's because there's a 10% increase the Tuesday after Labor Day in workplace absenteeism. And we have to remember that anything that we've done over and over again becomes what? It becomes habit, that's right. And every year since we were 5 years old, we've associated this exact time of year with a major transition in our lives. So I want you to stop and think about that for a moment. Every single one of us, whether you want to admit it or not, we're all going through some sort of transition. For the next few weeks, it's going to still feel and look like summer. But as we flip through the TV, the major sports seasons are going to start to transition, and baseball and basketball is going to start heading towards the playoffs. And some college football teams start their schedule this weekend. So that naturally means that the NFL and all their alcohol advertising is right around the corner. And we may find ourselves starting to put away the lawnmower and starting to get out the rakes. And we'll see Halloween decorations all over our neighborhood. And we'll see those stores that closed last year start to become, you guessed it, Spirit Halloweens. And just like one chapter has to end for a new chapter to begin, one season has to end for a new season to begin. And if you ask a survey of people, 100 out of 100 people do not want the party to end. Nobody's dying to get back to their responsibilities, and nobody's eager to get home earlier, or wake up any earlier than they have to. And you're gonna have a very hard time finding a single person on planet Earth that wants to be any more inconvenienced than they already are. And I say all this because I want you to work on developing one new habit this season, and that habit is self-awareness. And part of that self-awareness is being aware that these seasonal changes that's happening to all of us, and being aware of how they make you feel. Being aware of the drinking cues and the alcohol triggers, how you have responded to them previously versus how you'd like to respond moving forward. To be more aware of your weaknesses that are slowly becoming new strengths. Why? Because every day you get a little stronger. Because you get a little bit more practice in saying no to what no longer serves you, and saying yes to the person that you want to become. Every single one of us have these seasonal internal bookmarks throughout the calendar year of things that bring us joy and anxiety and pain and regret. For example, I lived most of my life in Northeast Ohio, and for most of my life, I knew that come November, that as much as I loved being outdoors and exercising, that this party too would also be over. That the garage would go from lawnmower season to snowblower season, that all those coats and jackets and flannels and hoodies would need to be washed and taken out of the back corners of the closets. And these certain times of the year would also remind me of when my dad died, when my last relationship ended. Now, whether or not we think about these specific times of year, they almost exist like that tiny scratch in the groove of a record. That little imperfection that you don't see and you'd easily forget if it wasn't for the fact that it makes the soundtrack of your life momentarily skip. These past events in our lives and these yearly associations can put a skip and a slip in our life's progress, especially if we don't stay ahead of what might be happening in our heads. And just like it takes time to end, correct, adapt, and eventually erase the old unhealthy habits, it also takes time to contemplate, put into motion, and to practice these new healthy habits. And I want to remind you on this day during this weekend that there will have to be a first sober Labor Day weekend, and the first Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and so on. For me personally, when I started this current stretch of sobriety, I decided to do it on a day before Halloween. On the day when everybody would be dressing up in their best and most most clever costumes. When everybody would put on a mask and pretend they were somebody that they weren't. I leaned into the symbolism of deciding to take off my own mask. To take off this mask of who I thought I was. To take off this mask of how I thought I was. And to start spending more time with me, getting to know who I actually was instead of this stranger that I was masquerading as. And it came at the small cost of temporarily sacrificing my social life. They say that your old life is the cost that you have to pay for the new life that you'd like to have. Everything that's worth doing has a certain price to pay. And the debt that'll always need to be paid when it comes to self-improvement is sacrifice. So the question that we need to ask ourselves is, have I paid the price for what I wish to have? Has your sacrifice been large enough? And the easiest way to find out is asking this simple question, which is, are you where you want to be? And if not, that simply means that there's still sacrifices that need to be made. Are you still cheating on your future self with your past self? Are you still trying to live that double life? Are you still trying to have your cake and eat it too? There comes a time in all of our lives when we're just sick and tired of being sick and tired. When we know that tomorrow's not going to be any different than it was today because we're not doing anything different today than we did yesterday. And there comes a time that we all feel like we're stuck in a rut, when we feel like our life has plateaued. When we get so irritated and angry with ourselves for being so damn predictable because we keep waking up a victim of helplessness, because we keep going to bed a victim of being effortless. So let me ask you a question. Are you going to drink this weekend? Are you going to do what you've always done? Are you going to keep yourself trapped in the cycle, or are you going to break the cycle? And I thought you might need a little bit more inspiration and motivation to stay sober this weekend. So how about some alcohol statistics with regard to Labor Day weekend? Sound good? All right. How about alcohol sales surge by 40% during Labor Day weekend? And Labor Day weekend sees a 38% in DUI arrests compared to a non-holiday weekend. How about this one? 45% of all traffic fatalities during Labor Day weekend involved alcohol-impaired drivers. And speaking of which, some of those accidents could be because there's a 25% spike in underage drinking during Labor Day weekend. And emergency room visits due to alcohol-related incidents increased by 30% during Labor Day weekend. Are you thinking about boating? Well, 50% of all boating fatalities during Labor Day weekend involved, you guessed it, alcohol consumption. Sexual assaults also see a 40% increase during Labor Day weekend, and alcohol is also involved in 30% of suicides that occur during Labor Day weekend. And overall, alcohol-related deaths during Labor Day weekend are 25% higher than an average weekend. So, with that being said, aren't you happy that we put out a video just in time to help you avoid your alcohol cravings? By the way, what are you doing this Labor Day weekend? Tell everybody by leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to show your support for everybody here in this sobriety community by giving this video a thumbs up. But if you're ready to binge watch another one of our previous episodes, don't forget to click the link in the top corner of the screen. And with that, I want to wish you good luck on your self-improvement journey, and I will see you in the next video. If you want to see another one of our videos, click here.